Who's your heart beating for? Who's your heart beating for in this life?
It's funny, you know, as this virus, you know, circumstances unfolding, our school is going to remote learning. My technological savvy is less than, right? But my leadership savvy, I believe in, and I have an incredible team that I was able to call on. And as we're Googling into the land of Google Classroom and Google Drive and Google Forms and everything else, right, in a very short period of time, I was talking with our school psychologists and our program supervisors and trying to get things ready to be able to rally up our team, to get ready to rally up our parents, to be able to get ready to get our staff ready, to get ready to tell the lawyers and everybody else in how to prepare for this devastating reality of, no, we're not going to be going on the buses and going to school next week, right? I had to say, I don't know how to do this, but I need to be ready to answer questions and explain things. Can you help me wrap this up? Can you help me be prepared how to explain this? Can you, can you help me how to be able to say, I don't know, and we'll get back to you on this, but still be ready to have certain things available? And how do we still help people feel secure in all of that? And none of it was pretty, but we had to be able to be humble. And I think that humility is also love. And sometimes we want to say that our strength is love, that our togetherness is love. And you have to be able to know sometimes who's smarter, who's faster, who's got it. And I mean, I look back at some of my relationships, my exes, even some who I'm very close with and who I still rely on. And I know that I can go to them and they can do it better than me in a moment. And I have to step back and not question them sometimes in the immediate, because we need something done fast and efficiently. And I can get the explanation later, but in the moment, I need someone to get it done better, faster, quicker, because somebody needs help first. And that's not ego. Ego is not easy to step aside from.
No, it's not. No, it absolutely is not. It's so when you were going through that, two memories came to mind. The first was actually my wedding day, and my best man, or the witness, came to me before the ceremony, and he said, I've got a marriage secret for you. He'd been with his wife 26 years. So I got a marriage secret for you. And so I'm waiting for this Yoda-like reveal of great information, like, oh, please tell me. And he looks at me as deadpan as he can get, and he goes, love your wife. And I went, are you kidding me? Like, really? That's something amazing? He's like, no, you didn't hear me. I said, okay. I said, love your wife. And I said, all right, you're saying something. I'm not sure I'm getting it. Please explain. And he said, love is not just a feeling. It's not something you receive. It's not an emotional state. It's an action.
Right.
Love is action.
Yes.
You know, when you go through that wedding vow, that good times and in bad, and sick times and sick times and in health, for richer, for poorer, trust me, you're going to experience both sides of each one of those coins.
Yeah.
You know, when you're at the wedding, you're only thinking about the good times. But the reality is, if you stay in love with anyone in any capacity, friendships, children, family, a pet, any type of love relationship over a long period of time is going to require work, because you're not always going to have the uptime, and you're going to find out where your love really is during the downtime.
Right.
And in that work isn't always what you do to show that person, that thing, that community, that whatever love. Sometimes that love is what you do to protect them from the selfish part of you, the ego,
Or themselves, right?
or themselves,
Or themselves.
or themselves if they're open to it.
Right.
Or themselves if they're open to it. You know, when you're working with some communities, they're more receptive because they may see.
But then you may have to walk away from that too.
You may.
And that's a very difficult thing. I have had to walk away from some of the most important people in my life out of true essence of love for myself, or a sense of love for what love should be, love of faith, love of them, because they're not honoring the love of what family could or should be, or a relationship. Right? What's that song, right? You can't always get what you want, but you try sometime. You just might find you get what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the hardest decisions bring you to a greater sense of what love is. I mean, I think about what friendship used to mean. And when you think about, oh, you know, how many friends do I have? 30 friends, 20 friends, this many friends. And when you think about what makes you friends, right? What you thought about friendship, how many people signed my yearbook, or, you know, who is there for you? You come back to the people in my community. How many people start getting married at the same time? How many people start having children at the same time? And then when people get a diagnosis of autism, some people, it's not that people walk away from them because they have children with autism. It's that it's so painful for them to see neurotypical developing children, and they step away because they can't bear that comparison, and they don't know how to deal with that juxtapositioning, and they don't know what that paired life looks like, and it just naturally starts to kind of fade away, and the comparison changes the dynamic, and they don't know how to still see each other. And you were talking about like those relationships sometimes. How do people stay in love? How do you still love your wife, love your husband, love your partner? Sometimes we don't realize that as time is going by, we don't keep asking each other, not just how are you, but who are you? And even more so, right? No matter how much we think we know ourselves, we're constantly changing.
Oh, yeah.
Our ethics are changing. Our sense of our political party, our integrity party, our sense of philosophy, right? And how we actually live, and the decisions that we make. It's like the big chill. What have we actually become versus what did we sit around the Camelot table and talk about what we thought we would become?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how it's a very different thing to sit and look at that mirror.
Well, so let me ask you this, and your example of the friends that come up together, they get married at the same time, they have kids at the same time, and then someone has a child that it's an autism diagnosis, and suddenly, because of that juxtaposition, because of the pain of that comparison, there's this schism, and the autistic, the parent of the autistic child goes one way, the parent of the neurotypical children go another way. they're now, as the parent, they're now having to kind of re-identify and redefine themselves. So
Yes.
if it sounds, and I could be wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is it sounds like they have their own search for balance, for
Yes.
connection, for community, for, you know, to be understood, because
Yes.
their social group of the past, their social clique of the past, with, you know, their neurotypical children, don't understand what their reality is.
And this is where the neurodiversity movement comes in, the question of inclusion, you know, the question of balance really comes in. Sibling relationships, and really it's such a unique blend of demographics, community, you know, it's also the difference between, you know, autism awareness and autism acceptance, right? Some people look at April and they say, oh, I'm gonna be a buddy, I'm gonna put a autism puzzle piece on my shirt, I'm gonna go to a local school and I'm gonna volunteer for a couple of days during the month and I'm gonna feel so good about myself. And then the rest of the year goes by and nobody even remembers what it means, right? You know, what is it to actually just have somebody be a friend, or to look at neurodiversity and different ways of communicating with people with communicative differences? How do people go and deal with neurodiversity at the local playgrounds? How do we have more sensory sensitivity at local playgrounds and restaurants? You know, more and more places are having autism friendly and sensory friendly events. Great Adventure, Sesame Place, different restaurants are starting to have different things. Broadway is having dimmed lighting and headphones available, things like that. But I think it's also just people being kinder and more aware, people being less judgmental when they're at a grocery store and someone's having a meltdown, right? And that's not just about autism, that's just about love thy neighbor, be a little cooler, get out of each other's hair, and maybe just ask if somebody needs help instead of saying, oh, is that the way that you parent? You know, maybe that's how our love mission needs to evolve.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And when you talk about the creating a standard, or creating more of a normalcy in that neurodiversity, so people understand how to get along, how to engage, how to interact, whether that be at a playground or, you know, in any environment. I think about the fact that we're seeing different programming in television these days. It's more diverse than it used to be.
Yes.
Think about if I'm not mistaken, Sesame Street added an autistic character, which I thought
Julia. Yes.
was really awesome. And so it kind of, and pardon the comparison. I'm not making the comparison, but I think back to in the 80s when AIDS and HIV was first coming on board, and people were first finding out about that, and everyone had this strange sense of other. Like, this thing could only happen to those people, whomever those people were. And depending on who you asked, they had different concepts of what those people were. And then you started, you know, as the 70s and 80s kept going along, you started hearing about more people connected to someone famous or connected to someone.
Right.
And then you started hearing about people who actually were famous and were powerful, you know, like Freddie Mercury, like Magic Johnson. And all of a sudden it stopped being those other people, and it started being, it could be anyone.
Right.
And when people saw it as it could be anyone, it kind of unlocked that empathy that this is not a, this isn't a scarlet letter situation where we're just going to label them as.
Well, and that's what happens when the numbers shift so intensely. I mean, 10 years ago, we were talking about 1 in 50,000 or 1 in 10,000. Now you're talking about 1 in 50. And so, and this is not just a matter of more people are being tested. This is more people are being diagnosed, more people are having these symptoms, more people are autistic. This is a real circumstance. More people are, severely autistic. More people are nonverbal. More people have apraxia. More people have severe sensory problems and motor planning problems, right? We're not talking about whether or not somebody is a little bit fidgety or has to cut the tags out of their shirts. This is something that, the adult population and how many people will or will not be able to be in the workforce, how many people will or will not be able to independently take care of themselves, right? Now, mind you, there are a lot of highly independent autistics who will be able to adapt and be independent, but there are a lot who will need to be supported. And we have a lot of work to do to be able to adapt as a society. And that's where this acceptance and this adaptability and neurodiversity as a movement really needs to be thought about. I am working with, and I know a lot of people are looking at creating communities. In the past, people thought about just institutions and residential living, and now a lot of people are looking at farming communities. We are looking at creating kind of a kibbutz community living, inclusive environment ourselves, a neurodiverse living opportunity, a university opportunity for respite and emergency housing and further learning opportunities, not just for adults who are classically college ready, but adults who are over 21, but academically still may be first, second, third, fourth grade developmentally. But right now, funding typically is only available for recreational learning or day hab learning. We want to see a movement that goes toward quality of life, happiness, communication, and continuation of academics and things like that as well.
So let me ask this, and I think that mission is excellent, because if with the numbers growing, the way that you were saying, it's certainly something where we as society need to be prepared, because that's a wave unlike we've seen. I mean,
it's happening now.
I would almost liken it to the baby boomers, where all of a sudden you've got a change in the demographic that is so different than what's been seen before, that it takes entirely different systems to prepare for it, to be able to support it, and to understand that these volumes are not like what we've seen. These behaviors are not like what we've seen.
And the economy has to be ready for it. And parents who are aging into their 50s, 60s, 70s right now are all wondering what is going to happen to their children and where are they going to go, and there are not enough places ready to heed that call.